Good evening. What does it mean building a positive science classroom culture? So tonight will be about how I bring my classes, how we integrate everybody together, how we open the floor for questions, because I do believe that if you can set up a culture of collaboration in your classroom, in your science classroom, then the sky's the limit about what you can do. So I'd like to share with you first that these will be from my experience. I just finished today my last class for semester one for grade 9 science class. And guess what? I had amazing classes. And I do believe that having amazing classes, for me to have a good time to go there, for students to come into class and have a good time, it's all based on building the culture you want so people feel comfortable. So welcome to this podcast. My name is Alain Faber. I've been teaching science for more than 25 years, and I share with you some ideas about teaching from either comments I receive, and to be honest with you, I decided to ask AI for a list of topics, and that was one of the topics that AI came up with. So let's double check to make sure that we have sound where we are at, to make sure that people can hear us, and that is great. So let's go. So tonight we're going to look at three different topics. The first one will be establishing collaborative norms. Second one, fostering scientific discourse. And the third one will be creating an inclusive environment. And let's see what we're going to discuss about today. So the first topic about establishing collaborative norms, I do believe that it is a key to having great semesters and having a good time with your class, regardless of your topic. So what does that mean? Establishing collaborative norms. That means that so when you start a new semester with a new class, you have 20, 25, 30, sometimes 35 people coming from different places where you're from, different places in town, from different feeder schools. And what happens, they all end up in the same room with keeping in mind that they all have prior experiences, they have their own personal views on how things are, and they all come in wanting to learn something new. So you have to look at all of this and say, okay, what can I do so that everybody feels excited to be there? So I do believe that if you are starting with a new group, the first thing that you need to make sure is that everybody is to make people understand that in the classroom, we are all humans to start with. Second, we're all coming with our own experiences and we can all learn from each other. And how do I get students to appreciate each other? So for the first couple of weeks, I always do a variety of activities that bring students to get to know each other within the context of the class. So in September, we started with ecosystems or sustainable ecosystems. So what did I do? We had a chance to go outside and take pictures of different nature pictures from the school ground. So what happens is that we put it all in a slideshow, and then we had students to write down why they thought it was fun or interesting, and they all had a chance to share what they liked on our school campus. So what it did here is first, it allowed students to show that I trusted them. First of all, to go outside and take pictures. Second, I was asking them to produce a picture from their own interest, and then they could share it with everybody in the classroom. So there's a few things. They were proud of showing their pictures. So having students feeling that they are accepted and feeling that they can contribute is an amazing thing. Something else I did was usually for the first 2 weeks, every class I have different groupings so that students are getting to know each other. And I always tell them, well, we're all new, we're going to meet new people. So what I want you to do is introduce yourself, and I usually have a prompt for which they will work with. And usually I bring hands-on activities. So I have moose handler, I have different things that I've gathered over the years from my personal experiences, and then they have something to focus on. So it does a few things here. First, they're discovering something new together. They are getting to know new people, and therefore, as the class progress, they are getting to know new people with who to work. And that's the key thing. I don't expect everybody to like everybody else. I don't expect everybody to work well with everybody. but we have a chance to get to know each other a little bit. And you know what? It takes weeks for people to go around and have a chat with everybody in the classroom. And I know that because I've been in classes in high school, universities, and sometimes in some training. And after weeks and months, there's a lot of people I did not know in the classroom. Now, they don't need to know about personal aspect of who they are, but I want them to know that we're all here and we're all here to learn something new with new vocabulary. And what's interesting is all personal experiences are different for different students. That means that we can all learn something new from each other, from experience, from traveling, from some people have pets, some have no pets, some do different sports at different levels, some like to read different aspects, different type of books. So the idea here is that if you have a chance to get them to share what they like, then it brings a human dimension to who they are. As a teacher, you get to know them, and the other students in the class get to know each other a bit more. And you say, well, it's a bit silly. In some ways, it may sound silly, but building a culture is to build an environment where people get to know each other a little bit more. They know that they can share information. They know that they feel accepted and they feel comfortable. Because I do believe that the best way for students to feel comfortable to learn is to feel that they're accepted, and then they can bring down the barrier, their walls, and therefore it's easier for them to succeed. I do believe that. So building a culture is important, meeting humans, appreciating current journeys. It's important to make them realize that everybody comes to the class. If it's the first day, the second day, the 10th day, the second month, everybody is at the same pace within the course. So which means that we're not one better than others, but we can all together finish the course knowing so much more than when we started. And that's the key here. Building on previous experiences. Good. If you live in a community, what's interesting is that often students come from very close by to the school. So when you give homework, some people say, well, homework will be, for example, you need to read this and that, you need to answer questions, you need to read a text. What I like to do in the first couple of weeks is telling them as homework is to go outside and take a picture. Go outside and discover a new trail. Call a friend and see if they can observe something in nature, bring a sample, or they can take a picture of what they've seen. So what happens is when students come back in class, they have stories to share. They have stories about their favorite trails, their favorite creek, their favorite part of the city. And because they're all more or less close from where we are, it gives a chance for students to know that we're all together to get to know each other. Because we are an IB school where I'm at, everybody from the whole town is coming to our school. So that means that we have, I know we have 1, 2, 3, 4, there's 4 high schools, and therefore we have students from all the feeder schools. So in September, what I did, I went to get the map of all the trails of our town. I put it on the wall. And what I did is I asked students to, with a marker, to circle their feeder school, and then with the marker to trace like 5 centimeters of their favorite trails. And what's interesting is that they realized that everybody in the classroom were from all different parts of our town. And with respect to their favorite trails, that's the same thing. They realized how people were going from enjoy different parts of town. And what's interesting, and then they realized that other people from the same feeder schools enjoy the similar trails. And what happened here is that you build friendships based on commonalities. And to go in circle and try to talk about and trying to find ways for students to get to know each other is tricky. But if you can get them to share what they know, share information about their experiences, they will want to collaborate. And then other people see students more than just a human sitting on a chair at a desk. They see each other as citizens from the same town, and they can collaborate much more. So that's why I think that establishing collaborative norms is so important. Now, I don't have a long list of rules. Usually the only rule I have is I want everybody to respect each other. respect each other with their gestures, the lab room, to make sure that the equipment is safe for themselves and others, and respect each other's person. And the reason for that is that if respect is there, everything else comes into place. I know there's a few issues here and there, but if you address them one at a time, then I feel that it's much better. I have to say, though, that my classes tend to be a bit alive and discussions happen. People talk all the time, and it is something that maybe it's not happening in other classes. But I do believe that if you do science and you talk about science, that is amazing. So let's see if we can look at the second subject. Subject is fostering scientific discourse. So here, my key thing is, in the science class, I always promote this idea that there's no wrong questions, there's no silly questions, and every time they have a question, they can ask it. So there's a few ways they can do so. When we have discussion, they can participate. If they're not sure, I have always post-its, and they can write their questions and put it on my desk, and therefore I can answer questions as I go along, and I see them. And sometimes I have I put whitebook, so it's like a whiteboard with markers, and then I give them a chance to go to them and see if they can write down any questions they may have. From there, we can go from there. And something that is interesting, sometimes for reviews, I have whiteboards here and there, and I put a variety of questions around the class. And what happens is that I get students to do rotation and go from one board to another to try to expand on the answers that other people have done. So usually, for example, if there are 10 questions in 10 groups, the first group has 3 minutes to answer the question on their whiteboard. And then for about 10 minutes, everybody have 1 minute to go in, read the question, and add to what was there. If they can't find anything, they don't have to write anything. Some people that are good at drawing, they can draw something, and they can answer questions with words, dot jots. And it's interesting because people that are very logical and linear in thinking, they will write the answers. People that are more artsy, they will draw pictures to do so. And a lot of people, sometimes they will do doodling, because if sometimes they go in, they say there's nothing I want to add, then they do some doodling. And what I do is I take pictures of the doodles, and then I put them into our virtual classroom, and they always like to see when the little drawings are popping up here and there, because they are contributing of what it is. And after the round of answering questions, then I ask for volunteers, 10 volunteers, to read the question and read the answer that is there. That's always a fun thing. And what happens is that they know what the questions are. They've seen the questions, and therefore when they share to the class, they have a good idea because they know the vocabulary, they know what's the topic, and therefore they feel more comfortable. Because if students can feel comfortable, then they'll ask questions and they'll be more willing to learn. Because you can't learn if you are in survival mode. That's my perspective. The next one here I have here is that if you are fostering scientific discourse, when we do reports or we do labs, we do a debate, we often have hypothesis or thesis with what is there. I sometimes bring the idea that when you have a hypothesis, it is what you think could happen in lab based on your personal experience. But I make hypothesis and prejudice very, very similar. So sometimes I talked about the fact that some people like sandwiches with mustard. And some people say, well, I don't like mustards, but some people have never tasted mustard. So if they never tasted mustard and they just have smelled it, what happened here is that they have a prejudice for not having experienced a good sandwich with mustard. So here's good because often students know more about prejudices through experiences and through the books they've read at school and at home. But when you make it a link with what hypothesis is, then it's good, because a prejudice is based on your experiences. When you learn something new, you can dismantle prejudices so that we have a more inclusive society. When you have a hypothesis based on your understanding of a concept, when you do the lab, you can rethink your hypothesis, you're building your knowledge, and that's this parallel I see in both of them. Fostering scientific discourse, I do believe in building vocabulary. So the idea here is that you have to have the word board. You need to have discussions for vocabulary. So that means that you have vocabulary, people are reading it, they're listening to it, they're saying it. Because the more you are comfortable with the vocabulary, the more students tend to be confident to talk about science. And it's good for when we have discussions in class. It's good into when they write something in their journal, they write a report, they write an answer to a test. Having the vocabulary is building their confidence in the topic, and that's important. And the other one here that I have for fostering scientific discourse is the fact that it is okay not to know. For example, we had the final summative task in my class. They had a chance to choose their questions. And there's a few questions where I had never tried before, and I'm not quite sure what they were. One was doing a lab with temperature of a solution and Alka-Seltzer. There was another one, I can't think of what it was. Anyway, they had a question. I said, I don't know what the answer is. And they got excited about that. Same way, if they asked me a question, I said, you know what, I don't know the answer. Students knowing that the teacher doesn't know all the answers right on the spot shows that the teacher is growing. I do know a lot of things, but there's a lot of things that I don't know. Now, if everybody is aware of that, the beauty of that is that they know teacher doesn't know everything, but the following class, he will bring the answers. So that means that if a student in class doesn't know an answer, they will say, well, I don't know. Or if they have a question about something they don't know, they'll be more willing to ask the question. And if the environment is based on respect, people don't mind people asking questions, because often a question lead to other questions, and it's amazing. Oh, and what is the one thing I say often? One thing I say often is, if someone has a question, you have to find an answer, because once you have an answer, it gives you the opportunity to have better questions. And that is how you grow as a person, as a junior scientist in the school and in the future as well. So that's our second topic. Our third topic today is about creating an inclusive environment. So here, let's see what I've got. So here is getting to know each other as humans. Now, we need to realize that when students are coming to high school in a science class, they have to do 2 science classes, grade 9 and grade 10, and that's all they have to do. So you have the students coming in, they love science, that's all they would do, and that's amazing. There's some students, they come in and they say, I have 2 science classes I have to do, and that's the only thing I need to do. So it's important for students in the classroom to realize that we all have different interests, but it doesn't mean that we cannot do science together. So for example, if you have people that do prefer reading, for example, or researching topics, they're great people where if there's a question, you can ask specific questions and they'll be more than happy to share their discoveries that they after. If you need someone that is more artistic, then you can just bring their talent in the classroom. Because if someone wants to continue in science, they need to learn the concepts. But if some people that they don't want to do science, you can still have them understand that if they don't want to do science, but they do into the arts or literature or marketing in business later on, having the vocabulary to discuss these concepts is very important, and these are possible job opportunities. Think of the space exploration. If you think of space exploration, it's about science and engineering. But think of all the social media, all the websites, all the influencers, all the people that are doing the visual art for the different projects, report writing, and so on. They are very important. If they know about the topic, their final products will be so much more amazing. And that's why I think everybody learns from each other there. Very good. The other point I have here is, let's see, then about science. Okay, getting to know each other as humans. So the first thing is we need to know that we're all humans the way we are, and then that science exists so that we can all grow within the classroom and that we're all learning together. There you go. So we are ending the semester. And what's interesting here is that when we did our final performance task, You have several people that they just love to do the hands-on activities. They're so much better than others. Other people are amazing at creating graphs and creating the report. Then they can learn from the person that do the hands-on activities, and the hands-on activities can learn from the people that are writing nicely. If we are looking at different evaluations, we always do we always have students to look at each other's evaluations, and the reason for that is that they can see how other people are writing their answers, and therefore they can improve on their own. Because the whole idea here is that we have 5 months to learn with each other, to learn from each other, and that's why every classes are different. So people ask me, okay, I had 3 grade 9 science classes this semester. So they asked me how it was to teach 3 times the same thing, once in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, same topics, same curriculum, similar evaluations. And he said, well, it must be boring. It's far from that, because every classroom, every class I had, there were 3 of them, had 3 different culture, 3 different respectful culture, but the way they approach the classes, the way they interact with each other, the way they are helping each other, the ideas from the discussions were different. And that's what made the classes all amazing. Anyway, I'm very proud of the 3 classes I had, and I'm sure that in the coming semester, I'm going to have 3 more amazing classes. Now, in some ways, I might feel a bit nervous because I'm not sure what will be the outcome of the new groups coming in. But keep in mind, with the new groups coming, if I establish collaborative norms, that will allow each other to get to know each other and see that we're all here to learn together. How will I make sure that the next group will foster scientific discourse? Is making sure that students are comfortable in the environment, in our classroom, so they can feel comfortable to learn, ask questions, so they can grow as a human being. And creating an inclusive environment, the only way we can do that is that if you create situations where people can share from each other, learn from each other, and also notice that we all have our different knowledge, different ways of approaching things. And that's what makes our society an amazing place to live. On these are the topics I want to share with you today with building a positive science classroom culture. If you have any questions or clarification questions, put them in the comments below. I'm always looking at them. It's always fun to see. And I'll see you next Wednesday at 7:30. On this, take care. Bye-bye.